All right. Well, thank you so much for having me again. And if I look down, it's because I'm looking at my screen. My camera's up here. I promise I'm paying attention. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming along. I appreciate you taking this time. So we're going to talk about podcasts today. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to do a little bit of presentation and a little bit of hands-on live on some tools and things like that and jump into what I was talking about. So bear with me. I'll share my screen and we'll jump straight into it. All right. Okay, so first of all, if I can get this to work. Yeah, there we go. All right. So why podcast? So today's conversation is going to be all around why you should start a podcast, why they're still relevant, why they still work really well, but also most importantly in the title of this presentation is why they're a bit of a content hack for those of us struggling to make content and need a way to be able to do it a little bit easier. So there's a few things we're going to cover. So these 4 things we're going to tick off. So using it as a content pillar, having podcasts be that content pillar for everything else that you do, the simplicity of it and not overcomplicating these things, how you can use it from a lead gen perspective and some tricks and hacks there, and their organic virality at the moment. So how they go organically viral, which is a lot easier to do than trying to do skits and conversations and talking heads yourself. Podcasts have a natural way of hooking a viewer's attention. So these are 4 things that we're going to go through today. We're going to stop and go back and forth, ask questions along the way. I'm going to speak, I'm going to try to explain as much as I can as I go, but I always know like there's the curse of knowledge, that there's things I know that you just don't know, and then I'm going to gloss over them and assume that you do without even realizing I've done that. So if there are things that you just go, what the hell is this guy talking about? Put them in the chat. We'll stop. We've got plenty of time today to get through all of this. There's heaps of time on the clock, so we'll get through it all, no worries. And so we want to talk about it. How can you practically go away tomorrow and start producing your own podcast? So with all that, let's jump into it. First up, content pillar. So to explain this a bit before I share my screen and show you a few things, when you talk about podcasts or when we talk about long form content, it doesn't just have to be you interviewing someone else or whatever it might be, right? Like podcasts is like these days just used as a stand-in for long form content. You know, when we say long form, what we're talking about is things that are like 45 minutes to like an hour and a half. Potentially longer. You know, some of the most famous podcasts in the world are like, say, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's famous for doing 4 5-hour long podcasts. This webinar in itself, what we're doing right here today is essentially the same as a podcast, right? It's someone talking for a long period of time that there's a lot of content inside of it that you can chop up. So when you're thinking podcasts, like expand your thoughts around it a little bit. Like it doesn't just have to be 2 people interviewing each other, you know, in some boring fashion about a boring topic. Like it can be all sorts of stuff. Some of the most viral podcasts that are out there at the moment are just people having a laugh, like telling jokes or talking about certain things. And like a lot of people will go, well, my business isn't really like that. We don't do this. That's fine. Just find something that works for you and your business. What the idea about this though is that you have one long form piece of content that can be turned into many other pieces of content. And it's this trick and why we start here that makes this the content hack, that by doing an hour or 2 hours of recording, you can produce 40, 50, 60 bits of content if you really want to. And there's ways that we can do that. So that's what we're first going to talk about, content pillars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and show you a little bit about one of the podcasts we run. This isn't one that most of the people who follow me on LinkedIn ever get to see because it's for a different audience on a different channel. But it is still a podcast that we've been running for 6 months or so now. And how we distribute it across different things and the type of content that we make. So I'll quickly do a new share and I'll share that there. Let's share. Is that sharing my screen now? Are you seeing YouTube? Yeah, cool, perfect. Okay, so this is my YouTube. We've only been doing it for about 6 months in this particular case. But what we have is a there's a podcast called Stansplaining, which pretty sure you can guess where that name comes from. It was me meeting a bunch of creators and essentially mansplaining to them about how to monetize their brand. I can't help but like when I hear people, their situations when it comes to business or creation or content creation, anything like that, to like throw my 2 cents in. I'm known for it. It's just I can't help it. And so I kept meeting these young creators who would come in and see us because of our, TikToks and things like that. And they'd come and see us and they'd ask me all these questions and I would start stansplaining to them on how to do things better. And then we thought, why don't we turn that into a podcast? Because other people would want to hear this information. It's good stuff. And also these people are amazing creators. And, let's be honest, we can leverage some of their brands ourselves to grow our brand even further. So we created the podcast called Stansplaining. I get to meet all these amazing creators across New Zealand at the moment. And we make a podcast. Now, it's real simple. We have this, I'll click into it. So we've done, I don't know, heaps, 20, I don't know, it's about 20 podcasts in there at the moment. And so we sit down for about an hour and I interview these people on their stories and how they monetize their audience, right? So a real simple thing. I reach out to these people. I just message them like, these are some of the biggest creators in New Zealand, things like this. Like Lewis Davis here has got like 1 million followers. We just messaged them and said, hey, you want to be on podcasts? A lot of these creators create on their own, but they also are trying to grow their own brands. And so this is an opportunity for them to get out there. For you guys sitting in this thing, you're probably going to be messaging business owners, or you're going to be messaging, other people in your fields, industries and stuff like that. And the same things apply. They are trying to build their brand as well. So they're probably quite likely to say yes. So I just emailed them. I then, we record a podcast with them for over an hour. I won't go into watching it. It's just, we've got a studio, so that helps, but we'll get into the simplicity side later on. But we record it for an hour. And then once we've got this long form podcast, we put that up, but we expect no one to really watch this. We don't really expect a lot of people to watch this long form. It's there, and over time it will grow. And if any of you know, say like Luke Kimmy's from Keep the Change with his podcast, he's been doing it for years now, 600 episodes, something like that. He's got 30,000 people listening to his podcast. So over time, it does grow into something really big if you're consistent. But the main thing that we do it for is for the short clips. So out of that 1 hour, I have one of my staff who sit in the room, and you might not have staff to be able to do this. So it might be something that you'll have to replay yourself and watch back the hour. But they sit there throughout the conversation and all the bits that they think are good, they put a little timestamp. They write down, okay, at 4 minutes, they said this thing. And so they write down all the times that good things come up. And then they go away and then they edit them. And now a lot of people might get a bit like, oh, I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. And we'll get into how to do that really easily. It's not as hard as people think. There's also some AI tools that we'll talk about that make that way easier these days. So they take these short clips and then they distribute them across all the platforms. So here's TikTok. We also put them onto YouTube, as you would have seen just before. It goes up here. So we've got the short clips here as well. But on TikTok, being the, I guess, short form platform, is where we get the most viewership. Some of them don't always take off, but like we had like 34,000 here with Luke. Well, that is Luke Kim. He's actually from Keep the Change. He's a pretty big creator these days. But we have all these trailers, 65,000, 17,000. Like these videos are going really well on TikTok because people like this sort of podcast content. So that's the first thing, right? So we got this big long form, take an hour, we recorded it, we put that on YouTube. We also took the audio of it and we put that onto Spotify. And so I'll quickly just Spotify. We put that onto Spotify as an audio podcast, right? Because a lot of people listen to podcasts via audio, or they listen to the long form as audio because it's too much for them to, I guess, sit and watch and sit in front of a thing for an hour. But on a commute, if you live in Auckland, most of your commutes are an hour anyway, so you can easily listen to that. I'm not logged in here, so it's not going to find my podcast too quickly. I'll find it soon for you guys and I'll show it on a different screen. But You got an audio one and you got a long form one on YouTube and on Spotify. So already one recording, 2 bits of podcast, 2 bits of content. Then we chopped it up and we've probably got 7 or 10 short clips. In our business, the way we do it is try to find 7 clips, because we do a podcast every single week, or put one out every single week, which, I get it that I have a team to help me produce that. So that's a pretty fast cadence for us to be able to do. But we produce 7 clips out of that every week. So we've got 1 each day while that clip's live. But there's probably another 3 to 5 clips in those hours, maybe even 10 inside that. There's probably 20 in total if you really try to push it. So that's now 10 clips. The next thing we do is there's clips like that will go off. So we'll have like, that's the wrong one. We'll have one of these clips, like say this one of Luke Kimmy's, that went off the other day at 35,000. We now know that topic is something really interesting for people to listen to, right? This particular one is about betting syndicates and how he started his and all that. So we could take that, transcribe it, write a post out of it and put that onto LinkedIn. Right. And so now we've got some written content for LinkedIn based around business and things like that. So now you can start to see a lot of people know this if you're here listening, is that you can start to see that there's lots of ways you can chop stuff up and do it. 90 minutes, we cut it, we'll keep the long form as it wants to be. Okay, cool. So I've been answering George's question as we go anyway. But yes, so we keep cutting it up. So you're starting to see now that there's lots of ways that we can reduce this in. The next thing that we do is we write a newsletter. So if we jump on here, we got a bunch of messages there. If we jump in here on my LinkedIn and we go into my newsletter. So on LinkedIn, there's an option to have newsletters. We're not really going to go into newsletters today. That's a whole nother hour session. But inside these newsletters, we share the podcast as well to LinkedIn. So this is the only way LinkedIn sort of gets to see it. We share it there. And sometimes the discussion that happened in that, we'll talk about it in the newsletter. So that's another way you can do it, a bit of like a long form discussion. Like say, for instance, you're interviewing, let's say you're an accountant and you're interviewing a manufacturing business, and there's this really interesting problem that the manufacturing business overcame inside their business, and there's a lot of lessons there for other people to learn. You could take the key points of that conversation and write a really simple article out of it. Now, the beauty about today is that we have AI tools to help us do things like this. So you could take those, like one thing you can do, which we've definitely done, is you can take that video, you can go to an AI tool online, like there's heaps of them, Descript, Premiere Pro can even do it inside of it. I mean, TikTok can do it inside of itself, CapCut, where you can take the audio and get a AI generated transcript. So you get all the audio written down as text. You can take that text, you can put it into ChatGPT, and you can say, write me a 700-word article based on this conversation of all the key points, and make it a beginning, middle, and an end, right? And it will, within seconds, take the thing that you did using the language you spoke of and write you an article with it, right? So that's another really good way, is that now you can release it as a 700-word article that doesn't take an hour to read. It only takes, 7 to 10 minutes to read. So people are more likely to do it. Shane, hey Shane, upvoting Descript, it's fantastic. Describe is terrible. It's transcribing my voice. Is that what you use? We use Premiere Pro, Alistair. We use Premiere Pro to transcribe. The reason why, so it's the AI tools that you use, some are trained on more models than others. Descript's very good. I do see it working quite well, but for me, Premiere Pro seems to be the best. So any of those of you who do use Premiere Pro, I would suggest to use that. However, CapCut, which is free, it's an app that's made by TikTok. You can get it on web browser as well. Its transcription tool is pretty damn good for a free piece of software. So CapCut, C-A-P-C-U-T, it's a free piece of software. There's a desktop version, and it's browser-based. Free. So transcribing, and then what you can do with that is, like, let's say you got a 1-minute clip, like let's say the one I showed you of Luke Kimmy's. I can take that little 1-minute clip, transcribe that, clean it up, turn it into a LinkedIn post as well. So I think everyone's starting to understand the picture here about what you can do with a podcast and how many different posts you can make out of it. One piece of content, if you just think about it, can turn into 30, 40, 50 bits of content, which means that as a small, I guess, creator, you can make one podcast every month and have enough content to go out daily, right? Which for a lot of people, they're struggling to do one post a week. And now you've just been given this thing that you can spend 60 to 90 minutes on upfront and maybe another 4 or 5 hours in terms of post-production. And now you've got this like entire process. And there are some tools, like there is we use a tool called Autopod. I'll just put that here for everyone to use before I have a look. You do need a Premiere Pro subscription. Premiere Pro is not stupidly expensive. I think there's like subscriptions for about $80, $90 a month now, which sounds like a lot, but you've literally got the best editing tools for Premiere Pro, Photoshop, Illustrator, all those sorts of things. And you put this Autopod in, and it does a few things. It does multi-camera editing. So you can put in, if you've got the cameras, you can put 3 different cameras in, and it will sync them all, and it will cut back and forth between speakers all automatically, all using AI. It's magic. My team use it now, and they realize that they're about to put themselves out of a job because it's so good at what it does. Social clip creator. So it also allows you to automatically create clips for social. So it does this within seconds. And then because it's already in Premiere Pro, if you need to adjust it a little bit, you can. And jump cut edits as well. So it's just based on footage and stuff. So helping out with the edits. So to sort of wrap that up a little bit, and we can dig into some AI tools later on. There's heaps of them to use, but I want to make sure we keep moving. Taking this long form content and turning into lots of others is why we think it is such a good content hack. The struggle that a lot of people are going to have is finding out what to do a podcast about. And a lot of people try to align it with their business too closely without thinking about what does their audience actually want to see. Their audience doesn't necessarily just want to learn about how accounts are done if you're an accountant, right? They want to know about people. They want to know stories. And so we have to get out of our head that like, oh, let's make a business podcast and just talk about business. And for the most part, people don't want to talk about business because like very few people will listen to an hour-long podcast about business, but they will listen to an hour-long podcast about people's struggles through business or their stories about life and things like that if they are business people. And the way I did manage to do a business podcast is I'm talking to famous creators, content creators about their business, just in a real like sly way about talking to just about them and how they're growing their brand and what they're doing to monetize and stuff. But actually everything we talk about is business principles, which does 2 things for me as a brand. It elevates my authority in the content creation space as a content creator and become a central figure for content creators in New Zealand. So that's the first hack that I'm trying to do. And the second one is it establishes my authority as someone who knows a lot about business. And so I've taken this concept of making a business podcast that everyone goes off and do, and then they're boring. And then I've done it this other way, which is still achieving the same thing, but I'm getting more people to start to watch it, especially when it comes to the shorts clips. We'll get roughly about 50 to 100,000 people see the shorts every week, which is amazing, right? Like that's enough. That's huge amounts of viewership for us. And we're only 6 months into a podcast, which, as we said before, podcasts take a long time. So that's content pillars, why we should do it. So let's keep moving on. If there's questions, we'll get into them shortly. Because actually the second piece is about simplicity. And so we've already touched on this a little bit, AI, tools like that. There are so many tools that we can use for making podcasts now because everyone does them. They're so easy to, I guess, for AI and other tools to help with. So there's plenty of them out there, and there's a race in the moment to get all the stuff. The first thing I want to talk about with simplicity is that, like, don't overcomplicate the setup. Like, if you're a business who doesn't have, 10 grand, or I say 10 grand, it's probably more like 40 grand to buy all the equipment you need that we have in our studio. Each of our 3 cameras are $7,000 each. And then, the lights and desk and that, like, you don't need to do that. This is our business. We sell this to other people. So it makes sense for us to spend the money on that assets. But if you're just doing it for yourself, that would be a stupid investment to make, for this purpose. And even if you did have that revenue, you're still probably better off paying someone else to then go do it. So what you need is a phone. Like, that's it. You just need a phone. Like, don't overcomplicate this. Most of the phones that you guys have can shoot in 4K, can shoot in 1080 is enough anyway for socials. Just set up your phone, get a little stand, like stand, like you don't need a big fancy tripod, just get a little stand. You can buy them off like AliExpress for $15, maybe less. I mean, we bought a bunch of stands from AliExpress for like $4 each. You don't need a lot of money, and just use your phone. If I was to do anything, if you were to spend any money on anything, it would be microphones. Microphones are the one thing that I would invest in if I would, and you don't need to spend a lot. You can go from as low as about $40-50 for a lapel that you can plug into your phones directly, which is good, but there's a distance between you and the phone that has to be maintained, so you're limited that. Or for about $300-400 these days, which is still a little bit of money, but it's not huge, is you can get a set of wireless mics. Rode Wireless Go do really good ones, which plug into your phone as well, or plug into cameras, whichever way you want to do it. They've got both camera attachments and phone attachments, so you can plug them into the iPhones and Androids. And then they have 2 wireless mics, so you can put one on you and one on the guest. That's simple, easy way to do it. Otherwise, from that, if you're going into podcasting mics, they start to get a little bit more expensive. I think the cheapest ones start about $200, plus you got to have stands and arms and things like that. But what I'm saying is, if there's one thing you're going to invest in the setup, make it the microphones. So first of all, that's the first bit. Don't go crazy on equipment. You don't need all the fancy stuff. Like, you just need to get started, and you just need to start doing them consistently. So that's the first thing. The next thing is a tool that I think is amazing. It's not the only one. There's other ones out there, but it's a tool to do virtual podcasts. Now, a lot of people look at like podcasts and I see people in a studio or see them in person and stuff like that. But like, you've all also watched all the virtual podcasts that people do, right? And there's lots of examples of very successful virtual podcasts. And what I mean by virtual podcast is that it's essentially this. It's a Zoom call with someone else. You record it and then you post it. Now, the issue with Zoom calls is that the quality of the cameras and video and all that sort of stuff is limited by internet speeds and things like that. And so you don't always have great quality content come out the other side. So instead, there are tools like, let's share my screen, Riverside. So Riverside, there's plenty of them, right? But so Riverside.fm is the one that we use. And what these tools do is it allows you to have a Zoom call essentially, but it's inside the Riverside studio, which does 2 things. It keeps a low quality connection with your live stream with your guest, which means that you can still have the conversation that's going well. But in the background, what it's doing is it's taking the high quality, non-compressed video source that you have and audio, and it's uploading it to the cloud, to the Riverside cloud in the background. And so what that means is that, yes, you can still have the conversation and go because it's low quality, it's not ruining the internet, and it's going to flow really easily. But in the background, there's a high quality being uploaded, which means at the end of the podcast, sometimes you need to leave the browser open. You don't have to be on the call, but you need to leave the browser open for it to finish uploading, and so does your guest. But you get a real high quality video afterwards. Now, we haven't used ours in a while, so all the podcasts that I've got are gone into hibernation. I tried to restore one. I didn't realize it takes 12 hours to restore. So I'm only 3 hours into that. But what's really cool about this product is that you can have multiple studios. So there's multiple studios in here. So I can have different ones for different podcasts or whatever. And then inside of it, I can have a bunch of different episodes. And then the best thing about this podcast tool is that it then helps you do all the editing in it. So you can tell it the timestamps that you've taken for, like, at 4 minutes, we said this really good thing for a minute, and you can edit inside of it because it's all in the cloud. So you don't have to have good, strong computer. You don't have to have like editing software or any of that. And what it does is it takes, like, if you look at these, they're a bit blacked out, but if you look at these clips, when you're inside of it, there's a side-by-side face for landscape. But if you're making it for social content, it can switch it to be the faces on top of each other. You can make it for square format, and you just click a button and it just does it all for you automatically. You can put different borders around it, different things. So it just takes like all the guesswork out of like how to edit. So like if you don't have the capacity, you don't have the team, the resources to hire editors or whatever, this tool for like, I think it's like $25 a month. It's something crazy. It's nothing in the scheme of things. So much so that we haven't used it in 2 months, and we just didn't cancel the subscription because the headache of having to go get it later on. But it's so easy to use. So for those of you who are looking like you don't want to maybe go and meet people, but you might want to talk to people globally because it's a podcast. You don't have to just talk to people in New Zealand. You might not have a bunch of camera equipment or want to get camera equipment or anything like that. Whatever reason, this is a really good tool to be able to do that. It then allows you to do all the quick editing and things like that. So you've got all these short clips. So there's tools like this everywhere. And if you start researching like podcast AI tools and stuff like that, you'll find them everywhere. And the next tool I want to talk about is a tool called Repurpose. Again, many tools out there like this. But this particular tool, what it does is you create one piece of content and it publishes it across all of your platforms. Okay, which is awesome when you're somebody who doesn't have the resources to make individual content for every platform, but it can still make it look like it's made for each platform. So in this example just here, I zoomed in a bit too much. This is like sort of a picture of what it looks like. What you've done is you've gone and taken this long form YouTube and you've posted it to YouTube, right? And then what Repurpose does is it goes, oh, hey, Stan's planning episode just got posted. Let's take that. Let's auto cut it up into small things based on our AI that we have. Let's create this template that Stan's chosen and push out some to Instagram Reels and TikTok. And then let's push out some other formats that look a bit different to Facebook and LinkedIn. So now we've got all this like automated content going out without even having to do anything. We've just gone, I've made a podcast. It took me an hour. I didn't edit anything. Like if you ever have watched Keep the Change from Luke Kemmy's, who's 30,000 people an episode watch his podcast. It's an amazing podcast. He doesn't edit anything. He literally like does the podcast, takes the SD card, throws it to his office manager and says, hey, can you just straight upload it? And they just upload it. They don't even look at anything. They just upload it because he's been doing it a while now. He just does it. And if you were to do that and using Repurpose, it would go and make you 20 bits of content and put it across 5 different platforms without you doing anything else. So you literally have one conversation for an hour and your content's done for the month. And all the settings are in there that you can edit and change everything. So it just makes making content stupidly easy. So if you want to have a look, Repurpose, there are like with everything in life, and especially in SaaS products, there is multiple people doing the same thing. So never think like Repurpose is the only tool. We're obviously not sponsored by them or trying to push them. It's just the one that we use. It's super effective. It goes across all the platforms. And essentially the way it works, it has an input platform. So you choose the platform that you're going to upload to. And the case that we talked about, it was YouTube. And then it goes, cool, we'll do all the stuff and we'll put it across these platforms that you've told us to put it across. Super basic, super easy. Is it the way that you'd continue to do it forever? Probably not. You'd probably get a little bit more bespoke and a little bit more specific to each platform, but you don't need to worry about that at the beginning, because at the beginning, you just need to start building an audience. And to do that, you need to put out quantity of content. You know, like if you think about, I keep going back to Luke Kemmy's because he's fresh in mind for me at the moment, but like if you think about the way he's done it, he's just done a stupid amount of episodes over a short amount of time, which built his audience as large as it has. If he had like a lot of people like us, for instance, we're doing one a week, which still seems like a lot, but for him, he was doing more than that. And for some people, they do more. The more you do, the faster the audience will grow. So if you're able to then post-produce everything faster and make more content out of it, your audience will just grow faster. It's as simple as that. Like the more you do, the faster it'll grow. Of course, there's an element of quality. The better the quality, the better the conversation, the better the clips, of course. But usually at that level, all that's really the differentiator is how much are you putting out? How consistently are you showing up to people? Because I'm assuming that if you're going to make a podcast or you're going to make a story about something, you know what you're talking about, or you're choosing a topic you know a lot about. So, and if you're not, that's probably the first step, is go back to making sure you pick something that you do know a lot about, or that you are very interested in, so that the conversation is a good one. So in terms of that, in terms of simplicity, some key things to think about there. Don't go overcomplicated on the gear. If you're going to do it in person, keep it to your phones if you need to. Don't spend a lot of money, especially when you start. Like 90% of podcasts don't get past episode 10. So don't go spend 20 grand on equipment and then do 10 episodes and then just have all this equipment. Like just start it, see how it goes, work through it. It is simple, but it is still time consuming, and people let it go and they don't keep up to it because they start getting too scared to ask people to come on, all different sorts of reasons that they get inside their own head about. So don't go up front, spend a lot of money, just keep it simple. Use things like Riverside if you want to do it virtually as a way to make it easier for yourself. Use as many of these AI tools that you can do, like Autopod or Repurpose or all the other plenty ones out there. There's heaps of them out there now. ClipGen, that's another one. I don't know, I think it's ClipGen, CLIPGEN.io, I think it is. That's another one that's really good. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's very good at what it does. It charges you per video, like I think it's like £4 or £5. So it's a UK company per video that it clips for you. So it lets you see them all. Any that you like, you buy it, you download it, and it charges you per one. So anyway, that's simplicity. It's not hard. It doesn't need to be hard. Don't overcomplicate it. Done is better than perfect. Just get it going, and trust me, you'll find that the actual production and post-production of it is the easy part. The thing that will hold you back is getting guests on. If you're doing a guest podcast, it's the coordination of guests, because like people are busy and it's hard to get them. So what I would suggest is ask 100 people. Don't just ask 4 and hope that they'll all come on. Ask 100 and just have a wait list. That's like us. Like we have a wait list for our Stanley podcast now. The next time someone can book into our podcast is 8th of January. Like we're that far ahead of ourselves. And look, some people will drop off and that's fine, and we'll just fill those spots, but it's better to be booked that far in advance than it is to always be struggling to find people every day. So simplicity, I hope that helps for some people, gives you some ideas. It's not obviously an exhaustive list, but it at least gets you started to realize that you don't need to be Joe Rogan to start this today. The next piece is lead gen. Now, for a lot of people here, you're probably wanting to make content because you want some business out of it, right? Of course, we're not naive. Like everyone wants to grow their business. Like sales is a big part of it, and leads is a big part of it. We all need it. This is why we do it. And if you think about it, especially those of you in the B2B or professional services space, how do we sell? We sell by having a call with someone, a meeting with them. We understand their problems through conversation, and we find a solution for them. And that's how we sell. Now, for those of you who are B2C, there's some other things here, but at least in the B2B and professional services space, that's how we sell a lot of the time, right? Like we meet people who have a problem we can solve, and we show them that solution, and then they buy from us. And we do that through a conversation. Well, what if you just started inviting those people, the target audience, onto your podcast and started having interviews with them, and you started to talk it, and you had a line of questioning that helps you find the problems that they have that you can solve. You're not going to probably pitch live to them on the podcast, but naturally giving, because you're trying to give so much expertise or things like that throughout it and talking about it, because you want that for the audience and for the content that comes out of it, they're naturally going to say, wow, you really know everything about what it is that I'm suffering with. Should we take this conversation offline? And so it's like a real, easy, low touch, non-threatening way of getting a potential prospect into a room with you to have a conversation. And we use it quite successfully in the past. We've used it. These days, my content creator podcast is a little different, but all the podcasts that I've done previously have all been done because of lead gen. We're trying to grow the business, and we're a small company at the time. And so we used it as a way to go, let's find all the people we want to talk to, invite them in, have the conversation that I usually would in an initial coffee meeting with people, and find out if there's a problem I can solve. And not everyone was just going to come out of the podcast and be like, give me the contract, Stan, I need to sign it. But 2 things will happen. One, you will find some people, and typical sales averages, 20-30% of people probably would be ready to buy, which is fine because you found a problem you can actually solve and they trust you. Or 2, they're going to get so much advice out of that, walk away, and they're going to talk about you to their networks. And now you've got a bunch of other people who now know about you and what you do. The same way whenever you meet people and give advice and help people. The same reason why I jump on these calls with Digital Boost. There's a bunch of you here who will hear me talk, get a bunch of advice and a knowledge. You'll go away, you'll implement some of it, you'll tell your friends, you tell other people and it spreads the brand of Stanley and the attention seeker, right? And I know that because a lot of you will come back and email me later on or message me, which is great. That's exactly why we do it. It's like none of us are naive to the reason I'm doing this. Like we all know that by building our brand and talking to people, it helps our business grow. And so the same thing in this case. Now, what I'm going to do here and share is like, I'm not going to spend too long in here because there's a whole nother conversation, but it's just LinkedIn is the place. Like if you're on LinkedIn and you're trying to find people, I mean, if you're trying to find people for your podcast, LinkedIn's the spot that you want to go to do it, especially in the B2B and professional services space, but also in B2C, if you're trying to find distributors or partners or investors or whatever it might be, this is where you go. So, you know, for instance, if you're trying to find like owners, I mean, this is going to be a pretty basic search. I might just zoom in a little bit. It's going to be a pretty basic search, but I'm going to go, I've just searched in the search bar, owner, and then I'm going to hit people. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to use premium. I'm not going to use sales navigator. There's all these other things you can do, but we're just going to go real basic, low touch, because I just want you to get started. And I'm going to go locations because I want them to come into the studio. So I need them to be in Auckland. And then I'm just going to scroll down here and I'm going to find all these people who are business owners or directors in Auckland. And all I'm going to do is find people who align with what it is that I want to do. And I'm going to send them a message or go comment on their stuff or find a way. Or I might go into all filters and I might go down to wherever it is, industry, and I might say, I only want to talk to people in IT services because we all love an IT podcast, don't we? Is that a thing? I don't know. But here we are, directors, cable technologies, you know, let's see what we got, like IT solutions. Like we've just found all these people in the industry. So if we're trying to find particular people who do a particular thing in a particular industry in a particular location, it's all there. Like LinkedIn's there. Like you've already got a list. You don't need to find it anywhere else. Just go ask these people. And it's different to asking them for like, hey, do you want to come do business with me and be real, you know, sort of salesy in that sort of case? These people you're asking, it's a mutual exchange. You're saying to them like, look, I've got this podcast. I want you to be on it. I'm going to give you all the clips as well. So you've got some content too. You can push it on yours, which you definitely want to do because then you can steal their audience. So you definitely want them to put your podcasts and clips on their socials. Why not? So we're going to help you make some content. We're going to put it out there. We're going to have a discussion. We'd love you to be on the podcast. Honestly, like there's two types of people in the world. Those who will just never do a podcast because they don't like being on camera. Fine. Ignore them. The ones who do, great. And they'll say yes if time allows them to do it. So you'll find a bunch of people who are willing. It's not hard. Like whenever we run podcasts for clients and whenever we outreach to find podcast guests, the success rate of getting them on is high. Like 30-40% of the people we outreach and ask to are like, yeah, I'd love to come on the podcast. And as the podcast grows, the more and more of them say yes. Because they're like, yeah, I've seen it. Like, oh, I've been watching it on TikTok or I've seen that. And so you're more likely to get yes, which is the same with Stanley. We did, I think, 10 episodes or so. And then now, whenever I message any of the bigger creators in New Zealand, they're like, yeah, man, I'd love to come on. Thanks for asking. Because they've now seen it and they know it's something. It's not just some like random dude putting a podcast and trying to hustle out these guys. And I think it helps with us because we have the attention seekers. So going out to big content creators, we also are big content creators. So that helps. But for you guys in business, or business people or whatever it might be, you're peers, right? So you're equals. So it's not one's leveraging the other. When the power dynamics switch the other way, it is sometimes harder to find those guests. So you need something. Like if you don't have a big brand or a big audience and you go and try to get all the top CEOs in Auckland to come on your podcast, like you're going to struggle because the power dynamics are not there. And until you've got a big audience that they respect or want to be in front of, it's going to be harder. So don't be silly to go after the big guys straight away or people who are really experienced, but definitely start with people you know, clients, friends, family. Start there. Start to get some episodes going under your belt. And then just start doing outreach to regular old folk just like yourself, like who are no different, all the peer group that you work with who are potential target audience. So super simple. It's not hard to find, but it is a great lead gen tool. I know all of you, especially in the B2B services, professional services, or even B2C looking for, like I said, investors or distributors or things like that. The way those deals are done is through conversation. What a podcast is, well, most podcasts is a conversation over a period of time that you can have with these people. And you get to do the line of questioning because you're the podcast host. So you can direct it in a way that helps you uncover problems that you can solve. So I hope that makes sense. And then lastly, organically viral. So in the background here are some pictures of clips that we've done. on my one. And between all of these, I think there's 200,000 views between these 4 videos. Now, without like trying to brag or anything like that, like that's a lot, right? And it's not about bragging and saying, oh, look at all my views. It's that podcast content is like culturally fit for a lot of platforms these days. Like people get it, people understand it, people understand the format, and people love hearing good stories. And so whenever I talk to people about making content initially, or like, oh, I want to start making content, Stan, like, can you help us, blah, blah, blah. And they have no ideas of what to do. Like they're really stuck for like, what sort of things should I do? Should I do written posts? What sort of photos? If I'm going to do video, what should I talk about? And all that. And like, they really get inside the head. And most of you listening today will probably understand that feeling. Like you're probably like, I want to make content. I just don't know what to make it about. I need ideas. And that concept of like, what is the content idea is the big hurdle that we always face to start with. But when you make podcasts, and you've just seen how easy it can be if you follow the steps, you've got this content style that we already know will work because it has proven to work time and time again with lots of different people on lots of different formats and lots of different mediums. So you've already got this particular thing. Now, the trick to making it go viral is that you pick out the bits, not necessarily with the most value, but the most clickbait, like the most things that trigger human connection or human, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like where something is like fundamentally the human condition, right? Where every single person understands it. That's the trick. You want to make sure that the piece in the story that you're clipping out to show everyone starts with something that is fundamentally human. Now, that's all good and well to say, but what the hell does that actually mean, Stan? Well, it's things like the one on the right here, who's Lewis Davis. In this particular clip, there's a few things that go on, but the key message at the start is talking about him being a father and him moving his family up north to get more time with his family. That is a fundamentally human thing that we all go through. If you're a father, you understand that you want more time with your children, but how do you do it? How do we get more time when the world is constantly asking us for our time as well? I don't know how. And so you hear this kid, he's only 30, going, well, this is what I did. I gave up my career. I made these sacrifices, but I wasn't stupid about it. I knew that if I did these things, I could make this work. And I gave myself a 2-year runway to be able to do it, right? So he gets into this like really fundamental thing that we all want, which is time and time with our loved ones. And he gives you a way to do it. So of course, that's going to go off. Of course, people are going to listen to that. But how many of those stories do we all have? How many of the things that we do in our business that you guys just do daily that you realize that I do this because it helps me do this thing? And it's something that all humans want, That's the piece. In the Luke Kimmy's one, and his one that went off, he was talking about betting. And they have a horse racing syndicate, and he's talking about betting large sums of money. Now, there's a couple of things there that are fundamental. Like, as much as people maybe not like to hear this, gambling is fundamentally human. Like having games of chance is a fundamental human condition thing. Like we've had games of chance in all of history. We all know this. We don't necessarily all have want to talk about pokies and gambling and casinos, but like games of chance are a thing. So humans love games of chance. They love the opportunity to win something for a little bit of something. And then when they hear this story, the next piece that's fundamentally human is the amount of money that they were betting. That their syndicate had $1 million going into this, the Karaka millions to spend on betting. So you have these two extremes of like, we all love games of chance, of the hope of making big out of something small. And whether that's right or wrong, that's what we do. And the other side is money. Like we love this concept of money and wealth. And for most of us, $1 million is a stupid amount of money that is like crazy to think that, Luke took it to the tracks and bet it on horses. Like that's a crazy thing for us to think, for most of us to just go, hey, tens of thousands of people just gave me $1 million and I'm just going to try my luck at turning it into $2 million. And the funniest bit about that story is that this is the first year that they didn't make money and they lost half of it. And so that was kind of the funny piece about it, is that, it's betting, it's gambling, so I hope that sort of makes some sense there. Like you're trying to find these things that are organically, fundamentally human that everyone can relate to, as opposed to, and so the flip side is things that only your niche will know, only your audience will know. That's not the way to make this sort of content. You need to make it that everyone will understand, but there's a subtext and a sub-layer that your audience will know even further. So if we take it in like Lewis Davis's point of view, where he was talking about being a father and finding time for his family, everyone understands that everyone has loved ones, everyone has family, everyone has friends, and everyone wants more time. We all do. Fundamental truths. We all have that. We're all the son or daughter of someone. And we all have this need for more time because it's the one resource we can't get back, right? So we all have it. But as content creators, they're going, well, how do I make money in a way where I can do that? I can see how a lawyer can do it, or an accountant can do it, or a business owner. But as a content creator watching that, they're like, man, I need to listen to more of this because I'm a content creator too, and I relate to him and I want to know it deeper. So they take it to the next level and might follow or might comment or might share or might whatever. So that's great because my target audience knows that and they'll dig in further. But I will find that target audience because everyone watches it. So because 60,000 people watched it, the 100 people I was trying to find all got to see it. And they will then take action, like, follow, comment, engage, whatever it might be, which helps build that audience. Does that make sense? I hope for everyone is that the reason you're trying to go organically viral is that you're trying to cast a wide net so that you find the people that you really want to speak to, and then they will get and understand the content further. And the good bit about it is that you hadn't even had to really try, because the guests you brought on, by answering questions, they've told you a story about their own life, which lots and lots of people will understand, because humans aren't that unique. We're not that different. We all have similar and share similar stories. So I guess we're out towards the end and coming to some questions. I hope that was good. I hope that gave you some insight.
That was amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. This is a really good time, guys, to pick Stanley's brain and pop anything in there that you want to. It was very, very cool. I had a question. What do you, we were talking obviously about podcasts and doing the videos with them, but how do you feel about platforms like Spotify and podcasting onto that kind of platform was my question.
Oh, yeah, I think Spotify is fantastic. I mean, I love the amount of investment that Spotify is putting into podcasts. So they have a platform called Podcaster for Spotify. It used to be called Anchor.fm. And if you go to that, you'll still be taken there. But it's called Podcaster for Spotify. And it allows you to upload podcasts free of charge to Spotify, but also you can link in Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts, and it'll distribute it to those two. The reason I'm so big on audio, I think you should be putting on Spotify, is that from a behavioral point of view, most people will listen to a long form podcast, then watch it. Like I listen to a bunch of podcasts, but I won't necessarily watch them on YouTube. So actually what I'm really doing is creating an audio podcast that I repurpose to YouTube is really what I'm doing. But from a long form perspective, but actually what I'm really doing is I'm creating short form clips. That's what I really want out of it. I want the short form clips because that's what people will watch, because, attention spans, like, they're not very long these days. So if we can get a minute to people and it's a good clips, and if they really resonate with them, like I said, with Lewis Davis, those creators will then go off and watch the full length clip.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've just seen a question come through from Pete. Can you see? Yeah.
I was hit or miss. Yeah, of course, Pete. The best way to do that is ads. So you can't organically make it go to the right people. The way to do that is to make sure it resonates with that audience and that it is something that they actually care about. You need to do that first anyway before you go and put ad spend behind it. But it's not that expensive to run ads to your target audience for something like this, because, if you think about it, if you know the target audience, like a CPM, which is a cost per 1,000 views on most of these platforms, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, it'll run you about $10, give or take some money, right? $10 to get 1,000 people to see it is not a lot of money on a clip that you think could resonate with them. So, and actually you don't even need a lot of knowledge on how to run ads these days, because like Facebook's ad platform is so advanced. Like, it's putting if you're starting a digital marketing agency today and you're trying to do CPC market or like conversion marketing, stuff like that, you are done. Like Facebook marketing is so advanced now that you don't even need to do that. If you're an established marketer, fine. But if you're trying to start out today and trying to do Facebook ads for people, it's just not necessary. Facebook's ad platform is so advanced. You can just go, these are the people I want, or I want people who watch this stuff as well. I like this podcast over here is similar to mine. I want all those audience watching mine as well. And it'll just do it. It's just, it knows. It knows better than anyone can ever tell it what to do because it's got way more data than a human can have. And it will only cost you like $50 to get 5,000 people who are that target audience to watch it, which is not that expensive really if you think about like how do you get to 5,000 people? That's a massive number of people. But where people go wrong here is they make a piece of content. They go, I want these people to see it. So I'm going to pay to get them to see it. But you made a piece of content that they didn't want to see. And so, yeah, you get the views, but like, let's say it's a minute clip. If you go and watch and you go look at the retention time of that audience, it's like 2 seconds. They got shown it, but they got shown it for 2 seconds and they skipped on past because they're like, this wasn't for me. It's an ad. I can see it's sponsored. I'm going right past. So I always say, before you go and push the content onto people, you need to find it organically anyway. You need to find that you can get it, that audience. It's the content that they want. And with today's platforms like TikTok and Reels and YouTube Shorts, their algorithms are designed to find people who want to see your type of content as fast as possible. They know that that's how they're all built. They are incentivized to find audiences as fast as possible so that you keep producing content, because if you keep producing content, then there are the big companies who will come put content in between it, which they call ads, and pay them lots of money. So it's in their best interest to get your content to the people who want to see it. So don't think the algorithm's playing against you. Like these days, the algorithm, if you're making the content that people want to see, it will find them. Like, trust me, it will find them. And if it doesn't, then your content sucks. And sorry, like you just need to make better content. And I think that's a good litmus test though, because like we use it as a business. Like we can't lie to our customers. If we're getting 200 views on a video, we're like, oh, sorry, the content we made is crap. We need to change this. And which happened recently. Like we went through this whole onboarding, us and the client, we all agreed this is what we're going to do. Everyone was happy with it. We did it. The audience didn't resonate. They bombed. We did a week of those posts and we knew we're changing. You need to come in. We're going to refilm. We're going to go again at our cost, not the clients. We redid it straight away. First video, 1,500 views, 2,000 views. So we figured it out. So you can't lie. If the content's bad, it won't get the views because your audience doesn't care. And until you get to that point, don't put ads behind it. Yeah. Hope that helps.
Yeah, that's really good advice. There's another. Oh, thanks, Pete. Thanks, Pete, for your question.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any more questions, guys, while we have Stanley here? Otherwise, we'll start to wrap up. Do you have anything else, Stanley, that you want to finish up with?
Yeah, I'd say that the last point I would say is that if you're wondering what to do, like what you should do as a podcast topic or whatever, the first thing I tell everyone, no matter what you do, is go consume some podcasts. Like how many podcasts do you actually watch? How many clips do you actually watch? Go find some and consume them. And what that will do is it'll start to, you're obviously all smart people. You obviously got businesses and all those things. You're not, you're smart people, you'll figure it out. If you watch enough and you be deliberate in what you watch, you'll start to learn. You'll start to go, I see, they did this clip, it got 100,000 views. Why did it get 100,000 views? Well, the topic of conversation they're talking about was so fun. I related to it, and I don't even care about the content creation world, but I do care about getting more time with my family, right? So that's something that I would say is consume. We got another one. Any tip for one-person marketing teams who also cover other areas of the business? Holly, is AI. Like, seriously, the AI tools are just outrageous. If you aren't sure on what AI tools, we've gone through a few here, but like the way we learn about AI tools is from TikTok. I laugh when I say it, but honestly, it's from TikTok. Like if you, like what you do is you go onto TikTok and you search AI podcast tools, and it doesn't have to be TikTok, it can be YouTube, it can be whatever. We just particularly use TikTok because the videos I think are better there. But you go on there and you search for the topic. It's like AI podcast tools, and it will be just, 20 million videos on what are the best, and most of them are repeated saying the same stuff because they all copy each other, but like just click on the first one, watch it, and just scroll for a bit. And what it's going to do, Holly, is like show you all these ways of creating content really fast and really easily so that it only takes you maybe 3 to 4 hours a month to make a whole month of content. And honestly, like if you don't have that much time, then to be honest, like you're wanting your cake and eat it too, right? Like it's a bit like sometimes at that stage, like without being harsh, like you just got to suck it up. Like if you don't have the resources to buy, like you just got to put in that effort. But I think like 3 or 4 hours is not a lot of work. Like when you're thinking about putting out 20, 30 pieces of content, like that's like anyone here who makes content, like 3 or 4 hours to make a month worth of content is a bloody good return on investment. So you're just going to muscle up and try to get it done. You can get it faster, but for most people, it's going to be 3 or 4 hours. There's going to be a learning curve. So in the first few months, it might be a bit longer because there's a learning curve to learn how to do this and get it efficiently. But again, to my point previous to that question, is go consume. Like everything I've told you, I didn't invent. I didn't invent this. Like, of course I didn't. I'm not smart. I just watched a bunch of other people who did it and I learned from them and I absorbed what was working for us and what works for others of our clients and things like that. I took the best and I left the rest to go. And I was able to turn it into a workflow that works for me. So I hope that helps. I think it's not a lot to ask for to do 3 or 4 hours of work to get a month of content, but you will have to try figure out those AI tools that work for you.
Thank you guys. And if anyone has any questions for Stanley or wants to get in touch, I'm just going to pop his website in here for theattentionseeker.com. You can reach him through there. And also you will be able to rewatch this video as well. And if you get stuck, you can email us at support@digitalboost.co.nz and we can help you out. Thank you so much, Stanley, for today. That was awesome. I thank you, Holly. Very, very informative, and it's quite a whole new world for a lot of people, you know, like especially even as someone who listens to a lot of podcasts, just trying to view it from a marketing point of view is a whole new world. So thank you so much.